Paramahamsa Parivaraja Kachacha Asutar Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sikho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Syama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Sri Jamuna Mai Ganga Mai Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Haribo. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. Jai Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 44, answers by citing the Lord's version. Tasma idam Bhagavatat Puranam Dasalakshanam Proktam Bhagavata Praha Prita Putraya Puttahrit Tasma idam Bhagavatam Puranam Dasalakshanam Puraktam Bhagavata Praha Prita Putraya Bhuttakrit Tasmat idam Bhagavatam Puranam Dasalakshanam Proktam Bhagavata Praha Prita Putraya Bhuttakrit Tasma idam Bhagavatam Puranam Dasalakshanam Proktam Bhagavata Praha Prita Putraya Bhuttakrit Tasmadidam Bhagavatam Puranam Dasalakshanam Proktam Bhagavatam Praha Prita Putraya Bhuttakrit Tasmadidam Bhagavatam Puranam Dasalakshanam Proktam Bhagavata Praha Prita Putraya Bhuttakrit Tasmadidam Bhagavatam Puranam Dasalakshanam Proktam Bhagavata Praha Prita Putraya Bhuttakrit Tasmadidam Bhagavatam Puranam Dasalakshanam Proktam Bhagavata Praha Prita Putraya Bhuttakrit. Matajis. Tasmadidam Bhagavatam Puranam Dasalakshanam Proktam Bhagavata Praha Prita Putraya Bhuttakrit Tasmaditam Bhagavatam Uddata Salakshanam Uddam Bhagavatata Pita Putraya Putakrit Tasmaditam Bhagavatam Tasmai, thereupon, idam, this, Bhagavatam, the glories of the Lord, or the science of the Lord. Puranam, Vedic supplement. Dasa Lakshanam, 10 characteristics. Proktam, described. Bhagavata, by the personality of Godhead. Praha, said. Pita, in satisfaction. Putraya, unto the Son. Putakrit, the creator of the universe. Translation. Thereupon the supplementary Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which was described by the personality of Godhead, and which contains 10 characteristics, was told with satisfaction by the Father Brahma to his son Narada. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Although the Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken in 4 verses, it had 10 characteristics which will be explained in the next chapter. In the 4 verses, it is first said that the Lord existed before the creation, and thus the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam includes the Vedanta aphorism Janmadhyasya. Janmadhyasya is the beginning, yet the 4 verses in which it is said that the Lord is the root of everything that be, beginning from the creation up to the supreme abode of the Lord, naturally explain the 10 characteristics. One should not misunderstand by wrong interpretations that the Lord spoke only 4 verses and that therefore the rest of the 17,994 verses are useless. The 10 characteristics, as will be explained in the next chapter, require so many verses just to explain them properly. Brahmaji had also advised Narada previously that he should expand the idea he had heard from Brahmaji. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed this to Srila Rupa Goswami in a nutshell, but the disciple Rupa Goswami expanded this very elaborately, and the same subject was further expanded by Jiva Goswami, and even further by Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. We are just trying to follow in the footsteps of all these authorities. So Srimad Bhagavatam is not the ordinary fiction or mundane literature. It is unlimited in strength, and however one may expand it according to one's ability, Bhagavatam still cannot be finished by such expansion. Srimad Bhagavatam, being the sound representation of the Lord, is simultaneously explained in 4 verses and in 4 billion verses, all the same, inasmuch as the Lord is smaller than the atom and bigger than the unlimited sky. Such is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. Tasma idam Bhagavata Puranam Dasa Lakshanam Proktam Bhagavata Praha Prita Putraya Bhutakrit. Thereupon the supplementary Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, which was described by the personality of Godhead, and which contains 10 characteristics, was told with satisfaction by the father Brahma to his son Narada. So here, the explanation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The Vedantists, impersonal class of man, they don't consider Srimad Bhagavatam to be Vedic literature. They go directly to the Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Tarva Veda, because they don't have the proper understanding of who is God, who are we, what is the relationship, why am I suffering, and how to get out of the suffering. Their idea is that they merge into the Supreme or become one with nothing or one with everything. Someone told me that joke. Why did the impersonalist order a pizza? I'll have one with everything. No, I'll have one with nothing. So, the Vaishnavas, their understanding is based on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Rupa Goswami for 10 days. Rupa Goswami left his post with his younger brother Anupam. His other brother Sanatan was in jail, and he told him how to get out of jail by giving the gold coins that were held with a businessman to the jailer, and he would let him out, which he later did. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sanatan Goswami. But first he met in the Shashvamedha Ghat with Rupa Goswami for 10 days. And he instructed him the complete science. Here in the purport, it's explained that the entire Bhagavatam was given to Rupa Goswami at that time at the Dashashvamedha Ghat. And it started with, there are 8,400,000 species of life, of which there are only 400,000 species of human life. And only in the human life can one inquire atato brahma jignasa. Can one inquire after the absolute truth? In other forms, one doesn't have sufficient intelligence to inquire. But in this human form, one can inquire. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Rupa Goswami that the living entity is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair residing within the body. The actual living entity, the soul, is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair in size. And Rupa Goswami listened so attentively for that 10 days at the Dashashvamedha Ghat that he later wrote the science of bhakti, which our spiritual master, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, gave to us as the nectar of devotion. And Rupa Goswami was such a significant disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that to this day, followers of Lord Chaitanya, followers of the Gaudiya Vaishnav, are known as Rupanugas. We are all followers of Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on to describe that the living entity desiring sense gratification can never understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nate vidu swargagati hi Vishnu durashaya ye bahir artamanina antanyatandayar upaniyamanas te pisa tantriyam urudamni badha. The living entity, because he or she is filled with a desire for sense gratification and personal so-called pleasure, cannot understand what is beyond this material world. They're stuck in a quagmire of repeated satisfaction and frustration, satisfaction and frustration, temporary. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on to teach Rupa Goswami that above that is the monist. The monist is thinking that I will become one with God. There is a God, and I am a living entity. But the goal is to become one with God, just like I told that story. There was a Mayavadi chanter at a festival, big festival. And he said, my spiritual master, he never printed any books. He never made any disciples. And he never built any temples. And I thought for a second, I was like, wait a second. He's talking about Srila Prabhupada. He said he shined like the sun, and we bathed in his sunshine. And the little crowd all let out a transcendental, ah. I thought, this is the most bogus thing I've ever heard. Banabhata wanted to go cut the guy's tongue out, but we didn't have a knife. So this is the level of transcendence. Bathe in the sunshine. We don't bathe in Srila Prabhupada's sunshine. We're in the sunshine of Srila Prabhupada by rendering service. Don't stare at my slippers, Srila Prabhupada said. Don't stare at my feet. Go get me my slippers. Don't just meditate on something ethereal, but perform practical devotional service. So, these impersonalists and monists, they reach a certain stage of transcendental consciousness. But because there's no activity, they may even reach the Brahmajyoti. But because there's no activity, they have to fall down again to this material world to engage in mundane material activities. Vimuktamanina tvayasta bhavad abasuda bhuraya aruya krichena parambadam padam padantyado nadrita yusmarangraya. They think themselves liberated. I know I have some friends in the interfaith community who are Vedantists, sannyasis, and they wear saffron. And they think that they're very advanced in spiritual life, more so than Vaishnavas. But my friend told me he belongs to the Vedanta temple in Hollywood, and he was walking down Hollywood Boulevard in his sannyasi dress, and a truck driver was passing. He pulled his, what do you call, horn, big horn, and screamed out the window, "Hare Krishna!" I said, good advertising. He's a Vedantist. Yet when people see him because they know nothing about Vedanta. They don't know Vedantists. They're not preachers. He immediately shouted out, Hare Krishna, Haribol. And I was very happy. I said, that's great. Keep walking. Keep going in the neighborhood and up and down everywhere. So this monism, they can reach a certain level of transcendental consciousness. But because there's no activity in the Brahmajyoti, because they don't have devotional service, they have to fall down again. Param padam yad vipadam nate sam, to this material world, full of danger at every step. They have to fall again to this material world. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went on teaching Rupa Goswami Prabhupada that Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Beach, that by the mercy of Krishna, one gets a spiritual master and gets the seed of devotional service. This is our situation. Somehow or other, even we weren't that pious, maybe a little bit pious, some more than others. But by the mercy of Krishna, we got to meet Srila Prabhupada and the Hare Krishna movement, and got the seed of devotional service. I know I was going to college and the devotees came there and they kept talking about devotional service, Bhutatma and Patraka, and what is devotional service? And ultimately they gave me the book by Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, Nectar of Devotion. And once I read Nectar of Devotion and then Krishna book, and I was hooked. Srila Prabhupada's teachings. He's a Rupanuga. He's following in the line of Rupa Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and giving the ultimate teaching. We hear today, that was the teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam. The teaching of Srimad Bhagavatam was summed up by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's talks to Rupa Goswami at the Shashvamedha Ghat. It was only 10 days. And he ultimately told him, Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Beach. By the mercy of Krishna, one gets a spiritual master. And from the spiritual master, one gets the seeds, the seed of devotional service to engage in transcendental loving service. And this service isn't just for today or this week. This service is a lifetime. At least this life, if not next life. One sannyasi asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, some of us would like to go to other planets to assist you preaching Krishna consciousness, distributing your books. And Srila Prabhupada said, that is pure devotional service. That is pure devotion. So, we have the instructions, the ultimate understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Sarvadharman parityaja mamekam sharanam braja. Give up everything and surrender to Krishna. Surrender to the spiritual master. And the spiritual master's representatives are everywhere. Just like Sura Prabhu was saying yesterday. One has to be meek and humble. One, first of all, is meek and humble to the spiritual master. But there are so many representatives of the spiritual master who are giving instructions. I remember the early days of Krishna consciousness. I was in Seattle, and there was one temple commander, Nityannath, and he used to yell at us for practically anything. And he preached, I'm the representative of Srila Prabhupada. You have to accept my instructions. Everybody wanted to punch the guy out. But because we were Vaishnavas, and because he was, somehow or other, chosen to be the representative of Srila Prabhupada, we listened. Don't put your socks in the barrel with the whatever it was. So many instructions. So one has to see the authorities in Krishna consciousness like that. Representative of the Guru and helping to cultivate your devotional seed and devotional creeper. And we follow that path. Sooner or later, one day, we'll start to develop serious Krishna consciousness. So much so that at the time of death, somehow or other, we'll be able to think of Krishna and go to Prabhupada. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga.
What was his name? I didn't catch it.
Nityannath. He never stayed.
Where?